Yeah, if he gives it to the end of the row, you can run it along. And then wait until you have it so everyone can hear you.
What advice do you have for a conservative student living in a...
Sorry, it's actually compliment question.
You're a very handsome man.
I'm kidding.
What advice do you have for a conservative student living in a predominantly liberal area?
I would say pick your battles wisely. You don't want to have your educational future put at risk by activist professors, and there are lots of them. My general sensible top-line advice is keep your head down, get a good grade, and live well as the best revenge, because you can always donate money later to things that will make a difference once you have a beautiful car, a hot wife, and a wonderful house somewhere. You won't get any of those things if you allow them to destroy your education. You don't get the grades. By the same token, a window is opening up now where you can, if you are so moved, resist slightly. And I would encourage you to do it with good humor. Do it with a smile on your face. Don't allow them to characterize you as anything but a mischief maker. And, you know, I always say this. I say this in every Q&A I ever do, and it's the most important thing, I think, really, that I can ever tell anyone, is that nobody can resist the truth wrapped in a good joke, you know? Nobody can ever resist somebody who makes them laugh. And it's enough of a heresy on college campuses merely to ask questions these days, to provide alternative data. That can be enough. That you don't have to, you know, go all out wearing those hats around campus and getting yourself beaten up and blacklisted by professors, though I'm so glad you do. So if you want some advice, is keep a smile on your face, because your opponents are angry, very angry, mostly because they know they're about to lose. They know that they have enjoyed 30 years of unqualified power, of unaccountable hegemony, and they realize now that the jig is up, that people have seen, they've seen little windows into this. University of Missouri, some of the worst things that feminists say, people have begun to see past, you know, behind the curtain, and they haven't liked it very much. They've seen what Black Lives Matter says versus what Black Lives Matter does. They've seen what feminism says versus what feminism does. So the activists are becoming very angry. It is, in fact, their defining characteristic, and if you can sit back and laugh with a smile on your face, nothing will annoy them as much. Let's go to this wonderful outfit here. How could I say no to this marvelous ensemble? I do so like it when people dress up properly.
Milo, thank you for coming, first of all.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate it. As an oppressed Middle Eastern male that sexually identifies as an attack helicopter.
Yes.
Which you actually microaggressed against me in the beginning. Don't think I didn't catch that.
I'm sorry for that microaggression. I will add to that microaggression a man spread.
Check your privilege. Check your privilege.
They always talk about men sitting like that. Do they mention their fucking handbags? Use up every other bloody chair. Every chair. Even if I give my friends a lift, you know, and their sort of handbag, shopping bag, do I complain? No.
So you should know that places me rank number 1 on the progressive stack, right, guys? Yeah. Right? Okay, good. So, basically, my question is that what red-pilled you to get out of the matrix, so to speak, of the regressive left? So for me, I just want to add that it was listening to outspoken professors at college like Jordan Peterson, Jonathan Haidt, and Gad Saad.
Yes, great. He's almost as... I love Gad, but he has an ego almost the size of mine, so he'll be very happy that he's getting enthusiastic responses from at least one person this evening.
As well as from 2 YouTubers, specifically Sargan Avakad and Computing Forever. Great guys.
Yes, all very good, very good, very good. Thank you. I don't know, I was sort of born wrong. I think I was born as a contrarian. I'm a good weather vane for where the power is in society, because I think if I'd been born 30 years earlier, I'd be doing what I'm doing now, but directed at the religious right. I basically have always been a sort of dissident, iconoclast, free speech fundamentalist, and I always wanted, if somebody ever told me not to do something, I would find out a way to do it and not get caught. And then later in life, when I had money and position, I'd find a way to do it and make sure everyone saw. Just to demonstrate that nobody, you know, that I can, and that, you know, most of the rules that they make for you are bullshit, and nothing bad happens if you break them. So as a sort of natural rule breaker, it's just my psychology really, and missing those bits of my brain where normally people feel fear, guilt, shame. I suppose I just always wanted to upset I wanted to prod the biggest fish, if you like. I wanted to upset the most powerful people. And I recognized quite early in my life that the most powerful people were not who we were being told. They weren't conservatives. They weren't the churches. They weren't any of the people that we were told. It wasn't the patriarchy. Because I looked at the numbers, I looked at the data, and I was like, well, hang on a second. If just get rid of all the media and politics, but just look at how the world actually is. What would I rather be born as? Well, it would be a wealthy white woman in America, because they're the most privileged group that have ever existed in the history of human civilization. And yet, millions of them marching, claiming to be oppressed by some guy who just wants to shut the border. This is lunacy. This is insane. This is a sort of fantasy and reality. This is as otherworldly to me as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, that's like how far removed from reality this thing is. And so I decided that I just wanted to provoke and ridicule and challenge all of the gatekeepers of good taste and received opinion, and to show other people that the majority of what they were saying wasn't true, and also to demonstrate to people that you can break or bend to snapping just about any rule that they give you, and not very much bad happens.
And lastly, excuse me, I wanted to point out that I really appreciate your good conscience and praise you for it, that you freely give out the microphone to students, even though many times, as we see in the videos you have, that they not only yell at you, but they also try to disrupt your speech and end it. Now let me say, to compare to your counterpart of the tolerant lefts, the fat, brown buffalo that we know as Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. We see what they did 2 months ago about in CSU Northridge. They had a Q&A session where at the end of it, they have the staff attendant, they don't give the microphone, they do this. This for the student because they don't trust them in case they ask a...
No, they run scared.
Yeah, in case...
And you only do that, why? If you're scared of the facts.
In case you
only do that if you're worried about losing. I'm not worried about losing. I'm already one of life's losers. You know, I was born gay. I've got nothing to lose.
I love you.
I'm done. So I've got nothing. You know, it's Oscar Wilde. You know, we're all born in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. These people think they have a position to maintain that is dependent on them never being embarrassed. Well, when you take shame away from the enemy as a weapon, you become, in the words of that man who cruelly parodied Muslims earlier, more powerful than you can possibly imagine. You become unbeatable when you refuse to allow them to shame you. And that is what... it comes from many different places in culture, but I got it from drag queens. You know, you tell... Well, if you listen to rap, Eminem does this well. If you've been in any way, you know, a participant in gay culture, you get it from drag queens. But if you tell whatever jokes they're going to make about you, about yourself first, and way funnier, they've got nothing left. They have nothing. You know, if you call yourself everything they might come for you with, and make fun of yourself and humble yourself before people, as I try to do, you know, telling endless jokes about black dick at my own expense. Well, I do it for a reason. I do it because I want you to know it's okay to laugh at me, and if I can then laugh at you, then we can actually have a real conversation, you know, versus the left, which is so scared of humor, because it believes that jokes are a way that for people to subtly express sexism or subtly express racism. They're so ill-educated in basic human nature, they don't understand that humor is actually how we connect, and humor is how we relate to one another, and humor is how we establish relationships, not how we break them up. But Karen, sorry.
Sorry, I'm almost done. You didn't let me get to the best part.
Go ahead.
The best part was, one of the students, to ask a very nutty question, and of course it was about Armenian genocide. So
yes, he denies it, doesn't he?
Yes, yes, they do, and or at least they try to always avoid talking about it. But as soon as he said that, they pulled the microphone away, they cut to commercial break, and they escort him out. And I can say I am proud that you have not done that, and I applaud you for this.
And I never will. Thank you. And I never will. I'd love to be proven wrong about something, mainly because I'd like to know how it feels. But I welcome inquiry. I welcome challenge. I just wish they were a bit smarter. I think I can do another couple. Okay. Let's pick somebody from the back. The person with both hands up is not getting a question for being too keen. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You can have it. You can have it. Thirsty. Nobody likes a thirsty bitch.
Hello, Milo.
Hi, Pumpkin.
I put both hands up because usually you like energy in your audience.
I
so.
do. It was very high energy. It was a high energy wave.
I did my homework.
I rewarded you, but I had to roast you slightly at the same time.
It's
See,
okay.
What he gives with one hand, he takes away with the other.
Right. Well, me and my friend here, we drove 4 hours to go see you because your shows in LA got canceled.
Thank you.
But
Thank you so much.
It was well worth it. It was definitely well worth it.
Thank you.
And I'm really glad I got to see this one because to me personally, as a Catholic, because Catholics are the best, this speech in particular is probably one of the most favorite that you've given so far.
Thank you.
My
speeches are all my favorite. Every one I give is better than all the others, so it becomes my new favorite. My favorite speech is always the one I just delivered. But I'm happy that you like this one.
They're all equal, but this one is more equal. So. All right. Well, anyways, something that I was wanting to ask you because I've been blessed that I've never had to really deal with any regressives really so much where I go to school. I wanted to know your opinion on this. How many people who buy into the leftist regressive ideology actually buy into it? How many of them are in it for personal gain, maybe like Hillary? How many of them buy into it because they simply don't know any better? And it's sort of like a follow-up question. Out of the people who actually buy into it, how many of them are doing it out of spite, and how many have good intentions?
Okay. Well, if you're asking me to give a sort of taxonomy of the progressive left, that isn't just, oh, bonkers, I would say there's enormous social pressure to conform to whatever is perceived as the sort of prestige opinions of the day. And this is known to sociologists as preference falsification. So, in other words, you say, yes, I'm a feminist, to have an easy life, because you know that everybody else does that. Now, interestingly, preference falsification is supposed to exist among the less well-educated. But in America, it exists exclusively among the best educated. So ordinary people are perfectly happy to admit they're not feminists. 4 out of 5 women say, Would you be hard-pressed ever to find a journalist on either side of the political divide, except, the right-wingers who are really trying to make a point out of it? You'd be hard-pressed to find a woman, or a male journalist, frankly, to say that they're not a feminist. And this is a sort of peer pressure. And I think that peer pressure, that preference falsification, accounts for perhaps 75% of the social justice left. And that's why I have hope. That's why I'm optimistic. Because if you see the next generation coming up now who were, people my age are the problem. I'm 32. People my age are the real problem. It's the apex of social justice at my age. Well, people my age are having kids now. And those kids, as part of the natural cycle of rebellion and renewal, are starting to grow up. They're 13 or whatever, and they really hate BuzzFeed. They really hate BuzzFeed. And they write to me all the time, like 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, saying, my mum would kill me if she knew I watched you on YouTube. And I'm like, this is great. This is wonderful. This so completely did the left dominate culture, politics, but also, more importantly, academia, the entertainment industry, and the news business. And they still do, by the way, all 3 of those fields. That, for my generation, is almost obscene to say you're not a feminist. It's almost obscene to say you don't support Black Lives Matter. But that cannot possibly be deeply rooted, sincere conviction. It must be something else. And what it is, I think, is preference falsification. Now, the reason this gives me hope, this is good. First of all, 3 out of 4 of them don't really believe it. They do it for an easy life, or they do it because it's what everybody else is doing, or they do it for professional advancement, or they just sort of reflexively do it because if everyone thinks that must be roughly right. Because most people aren't critical thinkers. Most people don't take the sort of forensic approach to their own belief systems that I hope that most of you do and that I try to do. Most people don't really think, don't give this stuff that much thought. But what preference falsification leads to is something called a preference cascade, and this is what we saw at the end of the Cold War, when the Berlin Wall came down. This is what we see very often when suddenly something happens to trigger a mass conversion to the other side. This is the fall of communism, basically. Suddenly, you had all these countries that were like, yeah, we love our government, everything's great. Because there's fear of social censure, there's fear of punishment, all these all these social incentives are pointing in one direction, but when the curtain is lifted, when the wall comes down, suddenly people either flip instinctively or just revert to their natural positions. When communism fell, suddenly you discovered all these new small business owners. I thought you were a happy communist. Well, so you've just started with Trump's election. This is why I said you've got a window now that will not come again. Because if you miss it this time, America's basically fucked. Sorry to say. If you don't get this one, by the time the next one comes around in another 30 or 40 years, it will be the Islamic State of America, and you will have no chance. But I've just started to see clues. I've been doing this for a little while now, and I've never had as much hope as I have now. BuzzFeed videos, you know. What I think when I hear the word white. You're like, oh, God, I don't even need to see this, do I? And it's exactly as bad as you imagine, but it's got an equal number of downvotes to upvotes. This has never happened before. BuzzFeed internally are horrified by this. They keep wondering. I have a few sort of undercover friends there, and they say that the big problem for BuzzFeed isn't just that they steal people's content and try to make it a business model, which is ultimately unsustainable, or that their insane, crazy social justice politics are turning everybody off. It's a generational problem. They captured the imagination of millennials, but the people coming up younger, 12, 13, 14-year-old, fucking hate them and don't watch their stuff and downvote it. So BuzzFeed's creating this huge entertainment, you know, franchise platform system for young people, and young people don't like it. It's a generational thing. And I started to notice other things. I mean, Trump's election is an example of this. People are prepared to overlook things they really can't stand, and there are plenty of reasons to, plenty of respectable, reasonable, decent people who don't agree with me that Donald Trump is the greatest living human being. Daddy. Plenty of reasonable, respectable people don't agree with me about that, and I respect their opinions. But they voted for him anyway. They sort of held their nose and voted for him. Why? Because they were so desperate to put the social justice warriors back in their place. And because something about his rallies, something about the size, the energy of those crowds, encouraged people to believe that they weren't alone. And not just they weren't alone, but they might even be in the majority. And those are the conditions under which a preference cascade happens. It's my curse is that I'm an optimist. It is my hope. I think I'm not wrong about very much. I think maybe anything. I was wrong once in like 1984, 5 maybe. It's my hope that this sort of preference cascade has been triggered by Trump, and you'll start to see the ramifications in culture. You'll start to see more comedians like Bill Burr and Joan Rivers popping up on Netflix because they'll just have to. They'll just have to. I'll have to cater to the demand that's out there. You'll start to see more. I mean, I think that it was very brave of my publisher, for instance, to take me on, given what they must have known would happen. And you know, shot to #1 on the Amazon bestseller list within 24 hours. Thank you so much. But this is my point. This is my point. There's an appetite now. There's an appetite, and I think if we can run into this unafraid of their shaming tactics, of their name calling, burst through, you know, being as outrageous and silly and fun-loving as possible, I think there's a real chance to break the yoke. So I think, it's a very long answer to a very short question, but I think the real die-hard social justice warriors are just emotionally damaged people who have been empowered by culture to make the rest of us hurt as much as they're hurting. And the kind, compassionate thing to do would be to give those people therapy and drugs and, you know, take them out of government, out of the media, and out of the movie business. Because they're not helping anyone. They're only hurting the rest of us while they, you know, continue to suffer themselves. And we have arrived at a point in American culture where the inmates are running the asylum, where the worst qualified people are lecturing the rest of us on how to live. That has to change, and I think with Trump's election it might. Let's do one more. Yeah, sure. Oh, come on now. No, he gets
hey, everybody. Hey,
-2 for yelling in that unpleasant, vulgarian manner.
Sorry, I'm
but
so
plus
sorry.
3 for speaking up in this audience. So
yes.
On balance, I gave it to you.
All right, so you say that the era of social justice is over, and you
yes.
complain about social justice work. So I want to ask a question. To what extent do you feel that labor market discrimination exists right now against gays and lesbians or African Americans, for example? And if you do believe that it's quite prevalent, what should be the role of the state in responding to it?
Well, in general, the role of the state should be nothing. But I was very relaxed. What? Well, I was about to give you a serious answer, but you can go fuck yourself. Let's have someone else. Let's go over here. Yeah, you. Yeah, you. No, I don't throw people out. I allow them to make fools of themselves. They do it beautifully. I will answer it briefly. I was very happy and very relaxed to see the LGBTQIA page disappearing from the White House website. We're doing fine. We're doing absolutely fine. Nothing's perfect, but there are much bigger problems in America to fix than a couple of homosexuals still claiming they're discriminated against when not really. I think there is a problem with the black community, but it's got much more to do with education than jobs. People, it's very tough to find a racist these days. People just hire the best guy for the job. The problem is that many black people don't have the educational opportunities, and I think that rather than trashing their own towns, they should be focused on building better schools. Don't scold me again. Yeah, no, I said I'd do one more, so I'll do the guy in the sweatshirt. Oh, God. This isn't a democracy. I don't want to fuck you. I don't have to do shit. I'm not like other college speakers. I don't have to be nice to you. I don't have to be nice to anyone. Fine, go on. And since your voice carries so beautifully, we'll spare you the mic and you can yell from there. Go ahead. Okay. Ooh.
Do you want me to tell you the boy story first or the other one? No, just kidding. The boy toy story.
Well, try and keep it brief.
So, all right. So my day started with a visit from the Secret Service at 11:45 in the morning.
Today?
This morning.
What did you do, Pumpkin?
Well, I was exercising my right
president?
to free speech on Facebook rather eloquently.
What did you do? What did you say? Tell us.
I was very critical of some of the social policies of our current president. I'm a social liberal
You don't need to go current. He's just the
conservative. I'm very fiscally conservative, but I'm social liberal. So I'm sort of on the libertarian end of things.
Very respectable position.
So, and I'm pretty thoughtful about stuff, so I was kind of rambling about this, that, and the other. So I got a call from the Secret Service.
Right.
And the good news is that they walked out apologizing and saying that they wish they had people like me working for them. Mm-hmm. The bad news is that I got the phone call in first place.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that I appreciate what you are doing for that very valuable right that we have of free speech, and that diversity of ideas is probably the most important thing that we should all learn to appreciate. And even though I don't agree with everything that you say, I welcome everything that you say. So here's the thing about given that the topic today was about abortion, and I'm a woman, I've never had an abortion, I think that it's not a either-or decision. It's not for the government to tell women what they should and should not do, and it's not for anybody to moralize women for their choices. I think it's ultimately the woman that has to decide what she wants to do and live with that choice. Because I agree with the statistics that you said.
We have very different positions. I think it's fine to criminalize and to moralize about any kind of murder, including that one. So we have different positions. That's perfectly okay. I don't, for instance, hand it over to a murderer's private conscience, whether they're allowed to go around murdering people in the street. I don't hand it over to a burglar's private conscience, whether they should be permitted to simply rob people.
That is totally awesome.
If you take the view that I do, which is that this is just another one of those crimes, then clearly there is a role for some kind of
The way I agree with you, actually, but at the same time, I see how we're trying to choose between two wrongs. which one is the less wrong? Is it less wrong
That's
to
why it's
kill the
hard.
fetus, or is it less wrong to give a woman a choice? And it's a very philosophical thing rather than a government. Like, the government can't get involved in labor disputes, like you said. Shouldn't get involved in my personal beeswax either.
Fine. Then we shouldn't fund it either.
We're not.
I'll take your position as far as so clearly you want to defund Planned Parenthood. We have at least one point of agreement then.
Actually, they're not funded by the government. It's not a line on the budget on the government. It's a reimbursement.
All right.
It's a Medicare thing.
No.
I just did the research.
Be respectful. People are allowed to be wrong. It's okay.
And beautiful, right?
I think we're going to have to draw a line under it there. Thank you so much. I appreciate your contribution and everybody else's. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.